people in the front. Today I'm here to talk about building a thriving career, right? Lots of us have careers, and lots of us have careers because they just kind of happen to us. That was me for many, many years. Like, things happened and I just kind of went with it. But I think as I've gotten older, it's become more and more important to me to think about what makes people really perform and be happy and contribute. Because I believe that the more satisfaction and joy that you have in your job, the better job you do, and everyone wins, right? So today we're going to talk about the things that I think are the three pillars: purpose, trust, and understanding what I like to call the principle of enlightened self-interest, which the person putting together my slides didn't want to put on there, but we'll talk about it anyway. All right, so as you guys well know, careers are not made in one way. Like sexuality or identification or many, many things about humanity, there are many roads to Rome, as they say. I think we all know somebody or have heard the mythical tale of the somebody who knew what they wanted to be when they were 6, and they followed that path and they were super successful and they were amazing and it was awesome. And for the other 99.9% of us, it doesn't really work that way. So I think we all begin differently. Some of us have an idea of what we want, some of us have no clue, and we just do the thing that we stumble into, and we get through it, right? But what do we really want to do? How do we really add our most and highest value, whatever that is, to wherever we go? And I think there's some fundamental things that we need to think about in order to do that, right? We need to think about purpose. Why are we here? What is it that we are here to do and to be? And I think we can all figure that out. We have to be flexible. We have to be responsive. And I think this notion of enlightened self-interest, which is if I need something or if I want something or if I have a goal, the best way for me to get there is to enable other people to get to their goals, right? Help me, help you, help me, right? There's nothing wrong with furthering your own agenda if you're doing it in an open, transparent, and supportive way of other people, right? Because we all rise together. So I'm going to start with the thing that I've personally struggled with the most, which is purpose, right? I used to really, and can I just tell you it's super weird to have this right behind you? Like if you haven't come up and just kind of stood here for a minute, I'd encourage that moment because it's weird. Anyway, so purpose. When I was younger, people would say, follow your passion. And I'd be like, you know what my passion is? It's eating. Like, literally, my favorite thing to do in the world is to eat. This is not a job. Or at least, it's not a job I want someone to pay me to do because it would sort of take the joy out of it for me, right? My passions are not things that are going to contribute. Well, they're going to contribute to the restaurant industry, but they're not really going to contribute to the world, right? My ability to explore culinary delights is not helping anyone. Well, except me. It's pretty awesome. So this notion of like really struggling with my passions, I was like, I don't know what that means. I hate this notion of passion because I'm not actually very passionate about many things. And then a few years ago, actually, I ran into this idea of your purpose is an outcome of what you're interested in. And that made a lot more sense to me. I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. I like that. What am I interested in? And I went from this journey of what am I going to be when I grow up, and what do I think, and what do I do, and how can I be, like all those questions of why the hell am I even here on this planet, to, okay, what am I interested in doing? And it turns out that for me personally, I'm super interested in solving problems. I love a good, awful, terrible, nobody else wants to fix it problem. I'm your girl. I love seeing if I can figure stuff out. But that's just me, right? And so when people talk to me today about purpose, I think passion can play a part in it, but it also has to play a part in the things that you like and are good at. So when you're reflecting upon what your purpose is, I would highly recommend that you start by thinking about, what do I care about, right? What are the things in the world that I spend my mental time and energy thinking about? Because that will lead you to much more practical applications. Speaking about this, there's a lot of myths that I think if we can let them go would really help. So purpose being huge and important and life-changing and all the things because you must have your purpose. Okay, guys, purpose changes. My purpose at 20 was to date. My purpose at 50 is very, very different, right? My purpose is to lead my company, is to do good things for our customers, to allow many, many people to change their economic circumstances, right? I am so fortunate that I get to work every day in an environment that allows people to be more of what they want to be, right? That's a pretty awesome purpose. It's way cooler than dating, which never really worked out for me anyway. Purpose changes, and you should change with it. And you should not be so overwhelmed like I was that purpose has to be this huge identity thing that you can't find one, right? Find something you're interested in and just kind of go from there. Work with it, right? Intrinsic strengths, interests, ideas. What do you want to contribute? Sometimes contribution can be as simple as making someone feel welcome. Contribution doesn't have to be, I'm going to change the world every single day, because when you set it up like that, you're going to go hide in your bed. Like it's too much for any one human to take on, right? And maybe someday you will actually get to a point where you are contributing in these huge, huge ways, and that is amazing and awesome, and I applaud that. But contribute from where you are, right? And if where you are is dragging your butt out of bed and making it to work on time, you go, right? Like you make that happen, because every day is a new day to contribute, right? So don't let it overwhelm you. All right, so pragmatically, how do you do this? Start wherever you are. Write it down. One of my favorite ways to write stuff down is I get a dry erase marker and I write it on my bathroom mirror. This drives my partner crazy. However, it works because you can erase it when it doesn't work out. Write it down, try it on, look at it every day, say it to yourself, feel it. And you're gonna know in a very short amount of time whether or not that actually works for you, right? I've written down lots of purposes that were actually kind of complete BS, right? They were things I wanted but couldn't really get behind, weren't really me. And I would recommend spending some time with yourself regularly to have this conversation, right? We kind of go through life and we do our things and we hang out with our friends and we, whatever. And then at some point in the long, dark hours of the soul, you get hit with, why am I here? What am I doing with my life? Why? How did I get here? Give yourself the grace to be deliberate about those questions. Make it part of your regular check-in with self. Who am I? What do I want to do? What is the thing that I can give back today? Right? I used to have a process when I was younger about, like, every week, I dedicate a meditation to my purpose. Talk about self-indulgent, right? It was a little. I was young, I'm sorry, these things happen. But what was awesome about it is it got me in the discipline about being highly conscious about what I was doing. Instead of continuing my life on this magical path of whatever just kind of happened, doing it, I started making better choices. And I started thinking much more deliberately about what did I want to accomplish? Who did I want to be? And that created a lot of change for me personally. Even though many of those mirror writings were kind of crap, right? It's a journey, not a destination. So invest in yourself. Give yourself the time and the grace to figure it out. And don't feel like once you've figured it out, you're never going to change it, because you will. All right, so the second pillar that I think is super important is trust. Oh my gosh, this is a big one. How many of you have worked in an environment where you are not trusted? Sucks so bad. I remember early in my career, I worked for someone who trusted their team implicitly. And it was a game changer. Oh my gosh. What? I don't have to run every thing by you, and you actually believe in my ideas. It was incredible. And it made me really start to question what was different about this. I didn't really understand at the time. Again, young, dumb, these things happen. And I realized after thought and some years of working for this individual and then going to a job where I wasn't trusted, why trust was so important, right? If you as a leader, however big your team is or in whatever way you lead, you have to figure out how to communicate trust, right? And as someone who works for somebody else, you have to communicate how you can be trusted, right? Because trust is fundamental to performance. If you want to thrive in your career, you must trust and be trusted, right? And how you navigate that is important. And I would say if you work in an environment now where you're not trusted, leave. Like, go, don't do it. And if you cannot be trusted, get some therapy. Serious, it's really worth it. I've spent a Porsche worth on that. Totally much better than having the car, I promise. But the reality is that trust drives outcomes. High trust teams perform better. They have more fun at work. They do better stuff. So if you are leading a team and they aren't having fun and they aren't doing good work and you're frustrated, take a look at that trust piece. And if you can't trust them, fix it. Find people you can trust. Work on yourself. Figure it out, because you will never get the performance you could have, and you will never, ever, ever be happy in your job if you do not trust your team. Trust me, I've tried many, many years. Never works. Trust is the thing. All right. So here's some weird things that people believe about trust. You can't trust anyone and you have to micromanage everything and nothing will ever work unless it's my way. This is not true. Your way is probably not great, by the way, just FYI. Or I'm going to trust everyone blindly and it will all work out. This is also not true. Trust is earned. Trust is based on an ongoing relationship, and trust takes work and constant communication. It's not just a ta-da, fairy dust, right? It does, in fact, require a lot. Trust is not something that happens or it doesn't. Trust is earned and worked on every single day. You know, you've probably all heard the thing about relationships where you have like the love bucket and you're either making deposits or withdrawals, you know, whatever that stupid thing is. Same thing with trust, right? You are either trustworthy and making deposits, or you screw up and you got to repair it. Trust is dynamic and ongoing, so invest in it, right? And my least favorite, which is people who are willing to be open and vulnerable, the fear around being open and vulnerable, which is people will take advantage. Well, if you're afraid of being taken advantage of, someone's going to, right? You're going to create that. That's how that works. If, however, you are willing to be open and vulnerable and extend trust first, you will be met with trust back. Not with everybody. It's an imperfect system, but you're going to get a hell of a lot more back if you begin the process. Make sense? Everyone's looking at me like, you're a crazy lady. I'm like, well, that's actually probably true. But I think the more conscious we are about trust and the more we personally invest in it, the happier we are. And the happier our teams are and the greater performance we get. And all goodness comes from this. Even in those moments where you trust someone and they screw you. I would way rather have those rare occasions that I get over than never experience a high performance team. Make sense? All right. So Trust is not something that happens once on a retreat, ever. Can I tell you the worst executive retreat I was ever on? We built teepees. We were divided in 2 teams, and it was so competitive that our CFO ended up physically chasing and tackling our head of sales to get his It was the worst thing ever. Talk about a low trust environment. It was bad. But you have to model it. You have to start. If you take nothing else, think about this. What you want to see from others, you must be. Even when it's scary, even when you don't feel like it, even when it makes your stomach hurt. I spend a good 60% of my day with my stomach hurting. Feel the fear and do it anyway, right? The rewards are so worth it. And you have to care about it. You know how I just said this is a process? You have to invest in that process every single day. Because once you lose trust with someone, it's almost impossible to get it back, right? This is true in your personal relationships, definitely in your work relationships, right? And honestly, how often do you reestablish trust with people who've screwed you over at work? Exactly never, right? And that lasts for the length of the time you work with them. It's awful. Who wants to live like that? Nobody. Work suffers, you suffer, they suffer. Yuck, don't do it. All right, so the last pillar, customer outcomes. So I believe that purpose and trust put you in a place where you can give your most. Maybe sounds a little crazy, but I believe that when you give your best self, you get the most back, right? And the best way in a business environment to give your most is thinking about who do you serve, right? You have internal customers, external customers, it doesn't really matter, but all of us are in a job where we serve others if we think about it, right? Sometimes we don't think about that at all, and that kind of sucks. But when we think about customer outcomes, whoever those customers are, we have to think about it from their perspective. One of the interesting things about being part of the LGBTQ community, for me personally, is this intersection of being part of a group who needs to be thought about, right? We ask the world to consider us, to put themselves in our shoes, to have empathy for our positions. We too must do that. The only way you create true service is through empathy, right? And you will do a better job, create better outcomes, generate more revenue when you understand your customer, because you're empathetic to your customer, even though they don't look anything like you. 99% of the customers my company serves look nothing like me. It's so critically important for me to understand where they are. Otherwise, what we do does not serve, right? And I can't really feel empathy if I'm not aligned to trust in my purpose, right? Because there's a lot of noise in the system. Does that make sense? You have to understand why they care, what they care about, in the same way that we want people to understand why we care and what we care about and the challenges that we face being diverse, right? Everyone's diverse to somebody. And it's important for inclusion that we understand that. So, some of my favorite myths. We know better than our customers what they want. We've got a thing, we know what it is, they will want it if we can just sell it. Familiar? Yeah. Almost every company makes this mistake because it's really hard to do it the other way. It's really hard to constantly get out of your head and think about your customer, right? Oh, hey, if we just get them at the first sale, we'll hook them for life, they'll love it, they'll need it, they'll never leave us. No, not true. Again, if you're not living your trust and your purpose, you may get them to the first sale, but they're not going to hang out with you, right? Because you are not going to provide the experience and the empathy that they need to create a relationship with you. Right? Hanging with me? I'm getting a little bit of nodding. This is good. Feedback, people, feedback. Also, I'm about to get eaten by a shark, so come on. Yeah. You can create a system for customer outcomes. Okay, this one's a little bit of a gray area because you do need process, systems, repeatability, metrics, all those good businessy things. And if you ever want to talk about that, I can talk about that for eternity. However, you also have to meet them where they are. You have to balance the scale and the business and the blah, 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 how we do things. And I do love the blah, blah, blah. With who is this person and what do they need? In that moment, am I actually serving a human who is like me or unlike me, but I can understand them because they are a human who has a need, even if they're screaming at me. And the way to do this is to humanize your customers, talk to them, understand them, and understand them in a way that you can serve their actual pain. The really interesting thing about humans, myself included, is that we're really crappy about articulating our pains, right? Because our brains do this really awesome thing where they make stuff up for us, right? You're upset because you just talked to your mom on the phone, and then you go yell at your partner for not putting the dishes away. Your brain just made it up, right? Or found the first convenient thing for you to get pissed about because you really don't want to be mad about your mom. That might be very personal and could have just projected right there. Just saying, maybe some of you can relate. So when you're talking to your customers, right, how does this relate? When you're talking to your customer, hear behind the words, right? The words are not the important part always. Hear the pain behind the words. How many of you have taken an Uber, ever? All of us? Okay, 10 years ago, if someone had come up to you and said, hey, how do you feel about climbing the back of some stranger's car? Your answer would have been, oh, hells no. No, right? And yet we all do it all the time, or we did before the pandemic. Why? Because it solved a pain that we had that we didn't understand, right? Because our brains didn't come up with a solution for us. But once someone told us what that solution was, oh, wow, did we adopt it, right? Who's used an Airbnb? Same deal. If someone said to you, hey, how do you feel about someone staying in a stranger's spare room for the weekend? What? Hells no, I'm not doing that. It's creepy and not safe. Ew, right? But you've done it, right? There are always solutions to pain that are not obvious, that do not require the words. Think beyond the words if you can, right? And the ability to do that is empathy. Hear the person's pain. I realize I keep repeating myself, but this is so fundamental to all of those things to me, right? This is how you solve the problems of the world. And this is, for me, in my purpose of solving problems, the key, right? How do I best solve problems? I hear people's pain. How do I best hear people's pain? I empathize with them. How do I best empathize with them? I'm clear about my purpose and I trust. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, so practically, tactically speaking, understand your buyers, understand your customers, even if they're internal. You don't have to do anything as fancy as this. This is, lots of icons and my marketing people made it pretty and that's cool. But the point is, be disciplined about your understanding. Be deliberate about your understanding. In the same way I'm saying be deliberate about your purpose, be deliberate about who do you serve? What do they want? What do I know about them? Where are my unconscious biases? What do I think I know versus what do I actually know, right? I find writing stuff down really helps. You don't have to type it up in really pretty things. I mean, we do because we think we're cool, but you don't have to, You can just like write it down and be like, hey, I talked to this person and here's what they said. And you know what? I thought what they meant was X, but I don't think that's actually true, right? Really give yourself and your teams the opportunity to question what you know and really get to know your customers where they're at. Oops, slides, it's hard. Stop going. Yeah, right? Like, whoa, stop moving. All right. And one of the things, while I'm on a soapbox, you're going to get to hear a little bit more about my soapboxiness, is outcomes, right? I mostly think about outcomes. When you think about the ultimate highest good, you make the better decisions for all the outcomes along the way. So when I joined my company, we trained people to get jobs. That was cool. It was nice. It was helpful. People paid us. It was winning. But the problem was that all we did was train them. And for a lot of the primarily ladies, but there are a few dudes in there, that we serve, is they didn't know what to do next. The outcome of completing the training or getting their certification or whatever it was wasn't the end. It wasn't what they bought, it wasn't what they cared about, it wasn't what their pain was. What they wanted was a job, right? Because, hey, nobody grows up at 6 going, I want to be a phlebotomist. That's going to be killer, right? You choose these things because you need a job, because you need economic mobility, because you need to feed your kids. So what am I doing to serve that need, serve that pain, thinking about the end state rather than, okay, I sold them a training course and we're done. Right? Think about the outcome. What are you driving to? How do you influence people to help support that outcome? Right? In our particular case, I have to work with employers to make sure that they will talk to my learners so that they will get them hired. Right? That's not something my learners are going to go do on their own because they don't know how. Right? They came from checking at Walmart and now they're supposed to go interview at a hospital? That's terrifying. So how do I help them? How do I create new solutions? How do I think about their desired end state? And I say this not because I want to plug our stuff, but as an example, because each and every one of us can think about who we serve and what is their desired end state. Are we going far enough? Are there new solutions? Is there more that we know about and can do because we understand their outcome, because we're empathetic, because we're serving them, because of all those other things I've been rattling on about for the last however long I've been chatting, right? If you can help someone get to a better outcome, how does that feel for purpose? That's pretty awesome. You can wake up every day feeling pretty damn good about yourself if you know that you helped just one other person get where they needed or wanted to go. That's huge, right? For us, I get up every single day because I know that there is some kid who is going to eat better because his mom got a better job. And even on those days where work sucks, and let's be honest, work sucks a lot, it matters to me enough to push through the suck to create that outcome for somebody else. And that gives me tremendous purpose. All right, so basically what I've been saying this whole time, which is these three things work together. Serve others. Serve others in a trusting, high trust environment. And use that trust and that service to refine your purpose, right? Both personally and professionally. Because those two things eventually, trust me, when you get older, like me, you will get there, right? My personal purpose and my work purpose have come into alignment. That was not true many years ago. Like I said, it was all about dating. Bad purpose. I sucked at it. Still suck at it, by the way. But I think if everyone can live more closely aligned to their purpose and their outcomes, the world truly does become a better place. And we become much more focused on moving forward and helping others by helping ourselves. And that's an awesome virtuous circle to be in. All right, so that's it. That's as much as I'm going to rattle on about. I know you're sad. But questions, if you have any. If not, I'm like, all good.
What did you do in your previous jobs before you're founder of Carrus, right?
Actually, no. I was recruited to come in as the CEO. Carrus is used to be known as something else, very old company, transformation, blah, blah, blah. So before becoming a CEO, I was a CMO for a software company. And I had this whole fantasy that I was going to retire and spend time with my kids. That whole purpose thing again. And my son sat me down about 3 weeks into it, and he's like, you need to go back to work. I'm like, really? What? Why? He's like, because when you're bored, you come up with stuff for me to do, and you need to go back to work. Okay, fair. Totally fair. So as I was thinking about this transition, this is actually a huge part of purpose for me. I realized that the career I had been in, that I'd been doing for 30 years, was no longer purposeful for me. Frankly, if one more person ever wants to talk to me about the emotional value of the color yellow, I'm going to punch them in the throat. Cannot do it again. And so I was like, well, what do I do next? If I can't do what I've always done and what I'm good at, well, I'm a lot less good at it now because I've stopped caring. I got to figure out something new, and what do I want to do, and what do I want to be when I grow up? And oh my gosh, it's like I'm 20 again. It was terrible. So I decided, what am I good at? What do I want to do? And I started writing crap on my mirror, right? Much to my partner's great distress. I was like, oh my gosh, can you stop writing on the mirror? And what I ended up writing is that I love to solve problems. I love to leave things better than I found them. And how do I do that? How do I do that in the next stage of my career? And I said, well, probably I should just sit on some boards and figure it out, because I don't have a plan. And people want women on boards, and I can probably fake my way through that, and that'll be cool. Which is, I got recruited to sit on the board, then got recruited to be the CEO, and that's how that all happened, right? Wasn't something I drove, wasn't something I chose. But I did get really, really clear about what I wanted to do next, which was a function of what I don't want to do anymore and what I'm good at. So, worked out that way.
Thank you.
Of course. All right, anything else you guys want to chat about? Cats? Why I suck at dating? Diversity? Any of those things? All right, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. It was an absolute pleasure chatting with you, and hope you have a wonderful rest of your summit.